One is on
Okay.
Kindly, please.
Yeah. So I request participants kindly mute yourself, and welcome to this 4th day of 1 week online training program on biostatistics and research methodology. So it's really a great privilege for all of us that our today's esteemed resource person, Dr. Anamika Madam, has joined. So welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And before starting the session, I just want to give a brief introduction about today's resource person. So Dr. Anamika is currently working as assistant professor in the Center for Studies in Science Policy at School of Social Sciences at Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. She is a convener and innovation ambassador of Institute's Innovation Council and coordinator, National Innovation Setup Policy, Ministry of Education. She currently holds the experience of about 15 years in various, academia as well as industry also. She is a editorial board member of various prestigious, journals. So she has the awardee of various international, awards. So thank you so much, ma'am, for giving your valuable time and for sharing your knowledge and experience among our participants. So thank you so much. So ma'am will talk about the, systematic review and meta-analysis, which is a very, important part of biostatistical and biomedical research. So thank you so much, and over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Dharmender, for the nice words and for this introduction. I am really feeling honored on this introduction, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to discuss my knowledge, share my knowledge with the participants on this workshop on biostats. So hope I'll fulfill all the expectations of the participants for today's lecture. And if I am not, then you can reach out to me for more details, because it's just 2 hours workshop time for systematic review, which generally takes a little longer than that. So if I'm unable to answer your questions during these 2 hours, you can just email me through Dr. Dharmender, and then I'll be happy to address all your unanswered questions for this session. So I'm sharing my screen now. Once you are able to see my screen, just let me know. And for the better connectivity, I'm switching off my video. Otherwise, I don't want any kind of interruptions during this session because of any technical glitches. Dharmender, it's saying host disabled.
Okay. I'm just
Sure.
Yes, please give me 1 minute.
हाँ, मैं को होस्ट बना दे क्या?
नहीं, आप मेरे को तो बनाए पहले.
अच्छा.
Please make me co-host and co-host Dr. Anamika also.
एक मिनट, मैं बना दे.
In the meantime, it would be great if I can know what is the general background of the participants.
Participants, you can write in the chat box. Otherwise, actually, ma'am, most of our participants are from health background, like public health.
Okay.
They are medical doctors or allied, health practitioners, as well as some social scientists also.
Okay, great.
Dr. Yadav sir.
Yes. I'm just
right now you are host.
Okay, please. Okay, kindly make the co-host to ma'am also, so that she can do the necessary things.
You can do that, sir, because
yes, yes, ma'am. You can share your screen.
Okay. So just confirm once you are able to see my screen.
Yes, ma'am, we can see.
Okay. So I'm scrolling it up and down. So just confirm it is working. So can you see learning objectives in the slide?
No, ma'am, it's not changing.
It's not changing. So you're still seeing the title slide?
Yes, title slide. You can make it on the slideshow. So that
I am on slideshow, but I don't know why you're not able to see. Introduction slide is not appearing, right?
No.
Okay, so we will have to work without slideshow then.
So you can make it
Okay.
share it again. Yes, now it's moving.
Okay. So okay, now we'll start the session for the day. So that is systematic literature review and meta-analysis. So in any research field, it is very crucial to embed a research topic that we all know, and we need to embed this research topic into a broader framework of research area of scholarly discipline. So to build up the body of knowledge in that area and to identify the gap in the literature, we need to provide a rationale for the research question under investigation. Why we are doing the research, we need to provide that rationale. We can't go कि ठीक है आज मेरा मन किया तो we will do that, but it's not like that. We have to provide a logical rationale behind that why we are doing this, why we are trying to answer this research question which is under investigation. And all the researchers have to familiarize themselves with the existing body of literature on any given topic. This is the standard format of any research we are going to do, whether we are doing it at a PG level, UG level, PhD level, or any professional level, whatever way we are doing. But this is one of the things which is very mandatory for every research. So conducting a systematic review provides an excellent opportunity for that. But firstly, we'll understand why not literature review, normal narrative literature review, and why systematic review. So this is the major question of today's session, along with the process of systematic reviews and meta-analysis. So these are the two broad things we are going to do today. And given the growing interest in conducting systematic reviews in order to inform policy, so in policy making, systematic review has gained special place. And to support research and practice in education, the purpose of this discussion is to explore the methodology of systematic review as well as challenges while doing the systematic reviews. It's not that we have decided today, okay, we'll do a systematic review in the next 10 days, we are done with it. It's not like that. There are many hurdles and challenges that we need to understand before conducting a systematic review or while conducting a systematic review. So what is the broader difference between the two? The literature review, normal narrative.
Ma'am, your slide is not changing because of...
I have not yet started moving.
Yes, I understood.
I'm just discussing in general so that everybody comes to a page where we can start our discussion in a detail.
Sure.
So a literature review is a scholarly paper which provides an overview of the current knowledge that we all know about the topic. हमने गूगल पे गए, हमने अपना टॉपिक सर्च किया, एंड देन व्हाटएवर वी फाइंड इज अ नॉर्मल लिटरेचर रिव्यू. हमने उसके बारे में पढ़ लिया एंड वी मेड कंक्लूजन्स आउट ऑफ इट दैट ऑन दिस टॉपिक दिस इज what has already been done, and now this is where we can start from next. And it will typically include substantive finding as well as theoretical and methodological contributions to a particular topic. Traditionally, in education, reviewing the literature and doing the research have been viewed as a distinct activities. हम अभी तक ये मान के चलते हैं लिटरेचर पढ़ना और एक्चुअल में रिसर्च करना दोनों अलग-अलग हैं. But considering the standard format of research proposal, which usually have some kind of review of existing knowledge presented distinctly from the methods of proposed new primary research. अभी तक यही हो रहा है, हम अलग-अलग लेके चल रहे हैं इसको. However, both reviews and research are undertaken in order to find things out.
Ma'am, could you please converse only in English? I'm not able to get it.
Okay, no worries. I am okay with that. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No worries. So till now we were discussing that generally research and doing a review of literature is considered as two distinct parts. But actually, both reviews and research are undertaken in order to find things out. You do a review to find that what has already been done, right? Reviews to find which is already known from the pre-existing research about the phenomena, about the topic, about the subject, whereas the new primary research is to provide answers to the question which existing research does not provide. So one thing is what is already been done is provided by review, and what next to be done is done through the research. So both are part of a research. One is existing research and second is the new research. So when we use the term research in academic sense, it is widely accepted that we mean a process of asking questions and generating knowledge to answer these questions using rigorous, accountable methods. The literature review can be used for making claims about what we know, but there is a way how we have conducted a review of research is also very important. So systematic, okay, we'll now move to the slides now. The learning objectives for today would be, what are systematic literature review? I've given you a brief background about what narrative reviews is. Now we'll discuss more of a detail of a systematic literature review. And what is the difference between literature reviews and systematic literature reviews? We'll give a bit more deep diving into it. And then why systematic reviews are important. So steps of conducting the systematic review, and what is meta-analysis, and what are the key takeaways from today's discussion. So I hope now the slides you can see moving. So we are on introduction page.
Yes, madam.
Okay, thank you. Great. Okay. So this is, we have already discussed. Okay. So now systematic reviews can be defined as a review of existing research using explicit, accountable, rigorous research methods. When we conduct a narrative literature review or normal literature review, you are not accountable to not to include any kind of study or why you have included that particular kind of study into your literature review. You don't have to, while writing your literature review, while creating a manuscript or publication out of it, you don't have to write anywhere that you have included this type of study, you have excluded this type of study. You are not accountable. For example, because there are some doctors as well, so I'll tell you some medical examples as well. If a clinical trial publication shows a negative result, what do you mean by negative result? Means the drug A for which you were testing or you were conducting a clinical trial, it failed to show any kind of efficacy, or it has very high adverse events, high rate of adverse events. So the trial generally gets terminated in between if it is in terms of adverse events. So in that case, it is a negative trial. So generally, pharmaceutical companies don't publish it. But now, as the guidelines have come up, that they need to publish it. But there is no mandatory condition that while you are conducting a literature review, you need to include such kind of negative results. You generally exclude that. Or what you do is, through Google Scholar, you try to search out the publication of your interest. But after first, second or third page, you say, okay, theek hai, we have got about 100 results, 100 publications of our interest. Now we close this search and start writing the literature review and describing all these studies, what we have included. There is no mandatory condition that whatever that has been published on that particular paper, you need to include that. There might be 10,000 publications that has been done on that particular topic, but there is no mandatory rule that you have to include everything into your literature review, normal literature review. So there is no accountability. Whereas in systematic reviews, there is an accountability. I'll tell you at what stages you have to present your accountability while doing a systematic review. Right? In contrast to traditional or narrative literature reviews that are criticized as being biased and arbitrary, the aim of systematic review is to carry out a review that is rigorous, transparent at each step of review process to make it reproducible and updatable. For example, what do you mean by reproducible? I have done something in terms of a literature review on a topic. If somebody else is given the same research topic, then similar results, same results will appear and same systematic review will be produced by another author. whereas in terms of literature review, it's not mandatory. It doesn't come up because there is a bias, author bias. I am not finding this study very good. I'll exclude that study. I'll not make it part of my literature review. Or very less data is reported in this publication, so it's hardly of any use into my literature review. I'll exclude it. Or as a author or as a researcher, I'm just looking at first 3 pages of Google Scholar, and another research who is given the same opportunity to do the literature review on the same topic, he might go up to page 5, page 6, page 7. There are he or she may include n number of publications because there is no restriction, there is no accountability. Whereas in systematic review, that doesn't happen. Rather than looking at any study in isolation, we need to look into a body of evidence. That's why we do literature reviews. But if it is systematically done, then existing primary research results contain arguments to shape and inform the practices and policies. Right? If it is done in a proper manner, systematic manner, then only it will be able to provide the policy recommendations. Because you have included whatsoever it was. It was possible.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So you have to include that. So there is an unbiased reporting or compiling of results or existing literature into your systematic review. So then only you can provide policy recommendations. So in a systematic review, high level of analysis of primary research is performed on a specific research question in which original research data is identified, selected, evaluated, and synthesized. There are different steps which are undertaken during the systematic literature review, where first step is identification, then selection, then evaluation, and then synthesis of the final results. And the primary purpose of a systematic literature review is to provide a comprehensive summary of the scholarly literature related to a particular research. And it is normally written by an expert panel after a thorough analysis of all the published and unpublished studies. So it's not key. Anybody can write a systematic literature review until and unless he or she has been trained on that particular type of systematic review. There are multiple types of systematic reviews. So there should be someone who is expert or who has already been trained on that particular type of systematic review would be able to complete the systematic literature review. And also there is a condition, not a single person can complete a systematic literature review. I'll tell you why. In the coming slides, we'll discuss in more detail that why not a single person can complete the systematic literature review. In contrast to traditional and narrative literature review that are criticized as being biased and arbitrary, that we have discussed that there are chances of being biased during the narrative literature review. Systematic literature review are method of making sense of large body of information and means of contributing to the answers to questions about what works and what doesn't, and many other types of questions. For example, in case of personalized medicine, there is new concept nowadays that there should be a personalized medicine for every person or personalized medication regime for every patient. But clinical trials can't happen for every patient. For every single patient cannot be included into clinical trials. So what clinical trials has already been done are used to gather the information through systematic reviews to create a personalized regime for any particular disease. So they are a method of mapping out areas of uncertainty, identifying where little or no relevant research has been done, but where new studies are needed. Systematic reviews also flag up areas where a spurious certainty abounds. Some studies had has some issues, and that is still doubtful. So when you conduct a systematic review, you usually find out that spurious data. And these are the area where we think we know more.
Ma'am, hello, ma'am. Is the slide is changed? You're still in 4th slide.
I'm still in 4th slide. That's right. I'm still in 4th slide.
Yeah, okay, ma'am. Just
Okay. So these are areas where we think we know more than we do, but where in reality there is little convincing evidence to support our belief. It is what we think that this might have happened, but there is no solid evidence to prove that. For that, systematic reviews really play well. Now I'm moving the slide, so I don't think you are able to see. Okay, so I hope it is visible to everyone till SLR and MA.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So this is an evidence pyramid. What evidence pyramid is? It tells you about that which type of study, which type of publication or study is very relevant and has a strong hold in the general public, or I should say the technical expertise, within technical expertise. So first, and the lowermost is the editorial and expert opinion. I have seen something, or as a doctor, this is my opinion. This is what I think is expert opinion. It has lowest level of evidence because there is actually no evidence. This is just one person's opinion, right? So it comes at the lowest slab of evidence, level of evidence. And then comes the case series and case reports. Case reports are, I hope everybody is aware that case report is a publication with one publication or information about one single patient. For example, as I'm a doctor, I have seen one patient which is very peculiar and I am writing about him or her in a publication format. So that's a case report. That's a single person's report. Case series is about 10 to 20 patients and all individual patient data is reported as compilation of case report. You can call it as case series. This is another thing which is little above than expert opinion, but still as the number of evidence, number of patients or number of subjects included then in that particular study are very less. So it is again at not very high level, but little above than the expert opinion. Then comes the case control, cohort, and randomized control studies. So these have little more increased level of evidence. Randomized control trial or RCTs are at the second most important publications or important studies which have been conducted, because there is a control group as well. The number of subjects or number of patients included in such type of studies is too high. Moreover, they are generally global, conducted in many countries, many centers, many different ethnicity patients are included. So this is a very good kind of evidence which provides you about the research question. But then at the highest level that comes up is the systematic literature review and meta-analysis. Why it is coming at the highest level? Because SLR combines all those RCTs or cohort studies or case control studies. So it is a compilation of everything what has been conducted in that particular area so far. So that comes at the highest level of the evidence pyramid. So when any policy has to be made or policy has to be amended, or any new drug has to be approved by the insurance company that, okay, we'll cover that. It generally doesn't happen in India, but in UK, there is a system that there is an overall agency, NICE, which is called as NICE. So that provides a coverage of various medications that this would be covered under UK's insurance policy or not. So how they do it? They conduct systematic literature reviews and meta-analysis that yes, this drug is actually working. This is very effective. This was low at the level of adverse events compared to what has already been present in the market. So it has that level of importance. Systematic literature review has that level evidence. So they apply explicit methods to the task, such as comprehensive searching, the quality assessment of the study. These are therefore good reasons for applying systematic review methods to view studies. And they are developed for trials, but debate about systematic review is still doing at non-experimental research also. So it's still under discussion that what happens when there is non-experimental research is being conducted. Can we do the systematic literature review for that as well? But some evidence is already there that some have done in that area as well. And the contribution to non-experimental and qualitative research can make to evidence-informed policy practice has been limited in the past because of uncertainty about still some methodology sections. Whereas systematic reviews and meta-analysis are basically guided by PRISMA guidelines. So whenever you conduct any kind of research, whether it is a primary research or a secondary research, there are some guidelines which help to complete that process, which guide you through that path of completion of that particular task. So I'll show you an example of these PRISMA guidelines which guide systematic reviews. I hope it is visible to everyone.
No, ma'am.
No, PDF has not opened. We can wait for a second or so.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, in the meantime, I just wanted to ask you one thing.
Yes,
Like in the evidence pyramid, where will the cross-sectional studies will come?
below RCTs.
Below RCTs. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Can you see now? I mean, any PDF PRISMA checklist, can you see this now?
No, madam.
Okay, wait.
Actually, in the top corner, it shows a PDF, but it's not opened yet, ma'am. The file hasn't opened.
Okay, wait. I'll try to share now. Can you see it now?
Yes,
ma'am.
yes, madam.
Okay, great. So this is the checklist that help you complete the process of systematic reviews, right? So this includes everything, every section that includes, that should be part of systematic review. What is the title of your review? What have you written the abstract for it? Introduction, introduction has two parts: rationale, why you're conducting this systematic review, and what are the objectives of your systematic reviews. Then methods, because I said already, I am reinforcing it again that methodology of systematic review is very important, because one condition of systematic review is that it should be reproducible. How can it be reproducible if you have not explicitly informed your audience about the complete methodology that you have undertaken to complete that systematic review, right? So methodology is really important, in which you will tell about the eligibility criteria, information sources from where you have collected the information, the search strategy. What is your search strategy that you have used? Search strategy means what are the keywords that you have used to search particular kind of studies of your interest. What is the selection process? No worries, you don't have to remember each and everything now, because each step we will be discussing in terms of methodology, we will be discussing in the coming slides in more detail. Data collection process, data items, study risk bias. Bias means you have to identify whether the particular study what you are including in your systematic review can introduce any kind of bias in your overall results. Effect measures, how you will outcomes. This is method. Reporting bias assessment is again the same, similar. Then results, study selection, statistics, risk of bias study analysis. From the participant, can everybody please mute yourself? And then discussion part. So these are the different parts that will help you or guide you through the systematic review process. So now I hope I'm back on the slides.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So briefly, I've told you what is the difference between systematic literature review and normal literature review or narrative literature review. So the comprehensive nature of systematic review is the one thing that distinguishes it from the traditional literature review. You can't be very as comprehensive as systematic literature review in a normal narrative literature review, which is focused or which typically examines a much smaller number of research evidence and present it from a single author's perspective. This is what I found is a literature review, normal narrative literature review from a single author's perspective. Systematic literature reviews are important because they help to minimize the bias that would result from cherry picking studies in a non-systematic way. When I open Google Scholar or I open any kind of database to search the studies, I am not finding this very good study, so I should exclude it. I am not very convinced with this study results, so I'm going to exclude it. Reporting of this study is not very good, so I'm going to exclude it. I'm not going to include it in my literature review. So these kind of things we generally do when we conduct a narrative literature review. But in systematic literature review, whatever way it is published, even if the data represented is non-very audience-friendly way, or even the shorter version is only available, or whatever it is, you have to include it. So there is no cherry picking in case of systematic literature reviews. Moreover, literature review don't aim to produce any answer to a clinical question. When we do a literature review in our thesis, what we do? We are actually, for example, I should say, I am looking for the effect of drug A versus drug B in disease X, disease S. So this is my research question. But while doing a literature review, what I'll do, I'll search for drug A individually, I'll search for drug B individually, I'll search for disease S individually. So I am not answering any kind of question through literature review. I'm just finding that what has already been done, and my aim is totally different. So I'll be able to do that literature review, and my research question is not at all related. I am just doing it to produce an information, background information. But systematic literature reviews are not done in such a way because the process is very rigorous. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes more than one people's effort. So it is not done without any particular question. Systematic literature reviews are generally done to answer any particular clinical question. And literature reviews can provide the context or background information for a new piece of research. They can stand alone as a journal guide to what is already known about a particular topic. Once you have done a systematic literature review, you don't have to search anything else. It is done then and there. It is a complete piece of information. And sort of synthesis in literature review does not attempt to control for author's own bias. Literature review will always have author bias into it. Because I have cherry-picked the studies. I have not done it not done any comprehensive search to find everything what has been published. I cherry-picked according to my own requirements, according to my own comfort zone. I have cherry-picked those studies and included that in literature review. So there is a bias into a literature review. For example, you're working in a university, and your university, about 5 years back, your university has made some innovation in terms of, or a new molecule has been produced by your university and has marketed it. Now you want to do a review on it or compare with one which is coming which has come later in the later years, but from some other agency. You want to study some other molecule from some other agency through a review part. When you will do the review, it will automatically come into mind that my university has produced this molecule, so this is very good. So I have to include those studies only which shows positive results for this molecule rather than that molecule of the competitor. So this is an automatic bias. You can't actually control it. So this is what happens in literature review, and you cannot control it. Whereas in systematic review, even if your own molecule doesn't work, has not worked very well in research, then also you can't do anything about it. You have to include negative results as well. So there are very less chances of bias. Systematic review originated in biomedical field and currently form the basis of decision making in evidence-based treatment, evidence-based behavioral practices. So now we'll deep dive into the systematic review process, which involves the developing of a research question. And that research question guide you to develop a conceptual framework. We make it into our mind and construct a selection criteria. Remember one thing in systematic review, your research question is very important. You should be very specific while developing your research question, because moving further, each step of systematic reviews would be guided by your research question. So your selection, you constructed a selection criteria. Again, I'm saying it is just an overview. We'll deep dive into each step one by one in the coming slides. Once you have constructed a selection criteria, based on that selection criteria, you will develop a search strategy. And using that search strategy, you'll select the studies using particular selection criteria and code those studies that would be included. Then a quality assessment of studies process will be done so that you can rate those studies whether it is a good quality or low quality, so that your audience are well aware that what is the evidence that is coming from high quality studies and what kind of evidence is coming from low quality studies. Then synthesis of results of individual study to answer the research question. Now you will try to mold down the results of these individual studies according to the research question and then report the findings. First is the foremost thing that is important in case of systematic literature review is the research question. Right? Once we have decided our research question, that what we are going to do, we'll develop a protocol. So systematic review need to specify a research question and the methods that will be used to investigate the question. And this is written as a protocol prior to undertaking a review. We have not yet started conducting a systematic review, but we are just preparing ourselves through a protocol. What a protocol is? By the term, we can very well understand protocol is the stepwise process which is given, which is well defined well before we actually start doing the systematic review. Because as the term states, it is a systematic review. So we have to be very systematic. So in case we miss out any step, then at the end, it will be not a systematic review. So before deep diving into it, before actually conducting the systematic review, before being hands-on systematic review, we write a protocol where each step is written down, that how we are going to do it.
Ma'am, can you explain all the steps with one example?
Yeah, I'll show you the example. I'll not just explain you verbally, I'll show you the example. No worries.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So writing a protocol or plan of methods at the beginning of a review can be very useful activity because you have already pre-decided what you are going to do to answer your research question. It helps the review team to gain a shared understanding of the scope of the review and methods that will be used. I told you in the beginning that systematic review is not a process that can be done by an individual. So there has to be a team. So if I am not going to write if I am not going to write into a protocol, then I am keeping everything into my mind, that then while transferring the information to my review team, there are chances that I might miss something. If it is written in a documented form, it will be transferred and it will be shared within the review team, and all will be on same page. So there will be no confusion.
Ma'am, if you are comfortable in Hindi also, some few words, because the people will get the more knowledge also.
I don't have any issues, but someone from your participants.
Yeah, I know that, but still some people, all of India, so they should know it very well, and they should go through it.
Sir, it is a
yes.
common language only, no, the English.
Yeah, it is a language of Hindi, no?
Yeah, not
We are
common,
from
common language English, it will be good.
No,
Once,
it is not.
no, once
It is
the
not a
madam
problem.
started to
No,
talk
what's
in
happened,
Hindi.
ma'am? What's happened? Sometimes some views and some reviews and some word comes, innovative words also comes from the Hindi, and we get the what in our language also. So it is very good, nice, conversation.
No, if madam started
I'm
Hindi,
wrong,
then
if
in
I'm wrong,
between we
if I'm
can't
wrong.
make her to stop, no.
No. Okay. We continue, ma'am. Sometimes what happen in our Indian language, if words comes, then innovative matters and what ma'am is describing and explaining, it is very good. But in our language also, some innovative things are also coming out.
No worries. I'll
Thank
show
you.
you the example. So if in terms of words, I'm not very clear for some of you, you can use you can see those examples and you would be more clear on that aspect. So no worries. And I am here. I can explain n number of times you want me to do that. No worries on that. But please, I have a request that please everybody should mute themselves because there is a lot of background noise during the session. So, okay. Please mute. Who is on a Dr. Subhash, Varudhini? Please mute yourself. Varudhini, please mute yourself. Okay, thank you. Okay, so different types of systematic reviews will have more or less developed protocols. So it depends on what type of systematic review you are working on. So it might have very detailed protocol or it might have very short protocol. So that all depends on what kind of research question you have as a mandatory condition for your systematic reviews. And the review questions give each review its particular structure and drives key decisions. Again, everything is being driven by your research question. What kind of research question you are trying to answer. That will guide each and every step of the systematic review. So what type of studies to include, where to look for them, how to assess their quality, how to combine their findings. So everything depends on your research question. So I'm going to share. So can you see Appendix 1 systematic review protocol example?
Yes, madam.
Okay. So this is an example of systematic review protocol of smoking cessation interventions and strategies for hospitalized patients. So this is one protocol where we are studying the effect of smoking cessations or the interventions which are particularly targeting towards smoking cessation, and what are the strategies that are being used in case of hospitalized patients. So this is just an example. So don't worry about the research question. You are in any case nowhere related. So I'm just showing you the components of a protocol. Here comes the background, which includes a little bit of literature survey of just one page of the top line evidence. Then this is your review question. What constitutes current best practice in relation to smoking cessation interventions? What are the indications, safety, effectiveness of range of interventions available? Then comes the inclusion criteria. What kind of participants you are going to include, what kind of interventions you are going to study, what kind of outcome measures you are going to study, what are the types of studies you are going to include into your systematic reviews, what will be the search strategy you are going to conduct, what would be the databases. So Sinhal, Medline, current contents, Cochrane library, PsycInfo, or these are the databases or the not software, but databases where you can find the study of your relevance. See, these databases, although we'll discuss a more detail about it, but these databases are depending on the subject or on the topic you are doing, because for every research topic, there may be different type of databases you are going to use. For example, smoking cessation is a topic which is somewhere related to your psychological instinct or psychological need for that smoke. So that's why PsycInfo is a database that publishes the results or publishes the publications which are related to your psychological impact. So that's why for this particular study, PsycInfo has been considered. Sinhal, Medline, current contents, Cochrane library, Embase are general databases. Generally, all scientific papers are listed in any of these. CancerLit is generally focusing on cancer literature. So there is again a general database. Web search is again a general database. So more focused is PsycInfo for this, or CancerLit is for cancer related publications. So these are websites, databases you are going to search for your publication. What would be the critical appraisal? Critical appraisal is a process where you try to understand what kind of studies you have included into your systematic reviews. And then a process of data collection, whether it would be a qualitative, whether it would be quantitative, whether it would be opinion based, what kind of data would be collected and what kind of tools you are going to use. For example, summary software suite. It is a complex software which helps you to extract, to collect all the information from all the studies that you have collected. So this software helps you to analyze your data in a better way, to collect it in a better way, so that at the end you can just export everything from this software to an Excel sheet, and you find each and every data into a compiled format. Then data synthesis, what kind of statistical analysis you are going to do on your data that you have included. And last part, as every document has, is the references from where you have collected your literature review. So this is an example of one protocol that I've shown you. I can show you one more. Can you see this, the effectiveness of health professionals or not?
No. No, ma'am.
Okay. Now?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So this is particularly for social scientists.
Yes,
I have included this kind of example as a protocol template. The effectiveness of health professionals, education and training institutes designing and implementing continuous development programs like what we are doing today for faculty and teaching staff relevant to evolving healthcare needs of their community, right? So our current workshop is a very good example for that. So what we are actually going to do. So this is another type of protocol which is written a little different. That all depends. So it has a table of content as well. Then again, background that we have already discussed. This is the study objective, or which has been further divided into what kind of research question. So it's, I'll tell you about PICOs in the next slide. So I am not going to give a more detail on at this stage, because that will be confusing for you. Then evidence generating selection, where what kind of search databases you are going to use. For example, Campbell, Education Research Complete, ERIC, PubMed. So these are the type of databases. These are the type of keywords that are going to use in the databases like PubMed. So hand searching means you don't have any kind of search strategy for these kind of things. You just have to do it manually. For International Journal of Academic Development, for example, they have given. For this, there might be no online version available. So you have to actually go, like about 10 to 15 years ago, we actually used to go into the libraries, deep dive into the journals and find out the relevant things. So this is an example of that. WHO library, then website Foundation of Advanced International Medical Education Framework, Council of Nurses. From there, what conferences has been done, you can find the resources from there. Then if you want to talk about expert network consultations, so that's an example, again, an example of a protocol, what kind of studies you are going to include and how you are going to collect that. So again, eligibility criteria, what kind of studies you are going to include, types of participants you have to mention, types of intervention. Here the faculty and teaching staff training programs are the interventions you are going to study about them, types of outcome, whether they are actually producing any kind of improvement in the faculties or not. It also assesses what is the resource use or the cost or the benefits and the harms of the training programs. It's just an it's checking out on that. What are the exclusion criteria? What kind of studies you are not going to include into your systematic review? Again, risk of bias and data extraction method. What kind of meta-analysis or statistical analysis tool you are going to imply, and how you are going to disseminate your results, and what would be your resource implications. What would be the expected outcome out of your systematic review? This is again an example of a systematic review, protocol of a systematic review. Right? Okay. So again, writing a protocol or plan of methods at the beginning of a review can be very useful activity, and it has to be there while conducting a systematic review. Right, now comes the selection criteria. Reviewers have to make decision about which research study to include in their review. Right? For example, I am conducting any kind of study. For example, I am conducting a study to assess the effect of drug A in cancer. Right? But if for drug A, there has been 10,000 to 15,000 publications in that particular cancer, how I am going to include everything into my literature review, systematic literature review? But it's a mandatory condition that whatever is being published according to your research question, you have to include that. So I have to make a selection criteria, whether I am going to funnel down my research question that I am going to study the effect of drug A only in A type of cancer. For example, I am going to study about Pembro in lung cancer. Okay. Again, if I'm while doing a general search, I found that again the drug A has been very commonly used and very commonly published literature on lung cancer. So what I am going to do, I am again restricting myself to see that if my criteria is still answered through including non-small cell lung cancer, NSCLC, then I'll funnel down it that now I am going to study about drug A in non-small cell lung cancer. So this is my one selection criteria, that only studies which have studied the effect of drug A in non-small cell lung cancer, I'm going to include that. So this is one of my selection criteria. Drug A is one selection criteria, non-small cell lung cancer is another selection criteria. So this is one rule that I'm going to include into my protocol. Another thing is now, because there are multiple studies, there are single arm study, there are non-randomized control study, there are retrospective studies, there are case control study, there are cross-sectional studies, there are case reports, case series. Multiple type of studies have already been done for drug A in non-small cell lung cancer. So now what kind of studies I am trying to focus? So there is a thought process into this, that if already there has been a multiple publications in terms of randomized control trials on any particular topic, then why should I go for rest of the type of the studies which are lower in the level of evidence pyramid? So I'll restrict myself that, okay, I am going to include the effect of drug A randomized control trials in non-small cell lung cancer. So now my criteria from 1, I have moved to 3. Drug A, non-small cell lung cancer, and randomized control trials. So this is one of my selection criteria. So I am going to include these type of study, and rest of the studies which are opposite to these 3 criteria will be excluded, right? So I am creating my inclusion criteria as well as exclusion criteria. So selection criteria is based on 5 terms. It is PICOS. PICOS. So if I'll write it down in a new slide. It would be whiteboard. Share. I am not very comfortable in the whiteboard, so we will go for this one. So can you see a blank screen, a blank slide?
Yes, madam.
Okay, the selection criteria is based on 5 keywords. It says PICOS. Right? So it comes out PICOS. P for population, I for intervention, C for comparator, O for outcomes, S for study design. Right? We'll keep with one example which we are discussing currently. So I'll explain this PICOS accordingly. Okay. So in this case, what we have already selected, that non-small cell lung cancer. Fine. So this we have decided that, okay, we will study only non-small cell lung cancer. What we will study, what would be our intervention? Drug A. So now comes the comparator. What we are intending to do through our research question. Are we trying to make a comparison? Sorry, anybody has a question? Okay. So what we are trying to assess, are we trying to assess the effect comparison of drug A with any gold standard drug in non-small cell lung cancer? Or we are intending to find out the effect of drug A versus a placebo? Or we are trying to find out the comparison of drug A with all the existing interventions in that area? So let's assume that we are considering all the available interventions. So that would be our studies comparing drug A with all the other interventions would be our one criteria to be for the inclusion. So then comes the outcomes. What we are going to study. What we want is the drug A is really increasing the survival time of a cancer patient or not. So it is termed as overall survival. Or we are trying to study that cost of drug A compared to rest of the available intervention is higher or lower. So we are assessing cost outcomes, right? Or we are trying to say that drug A is improving the quality of life of a patient. So we are assessing quality of life outcomes. So these are the outcomes we are going to finally study. Now, what would be the study design? We have just discussed that, okay, because there has lot been literature on drug A versus other comparators in non-small cell lung cancer. So we'll restrict ourselves to randomized control trial. So this is our PICOs. So I'll show you. So this is our inclusion criteria, right? So now I am going to show you is the exclusion criteria, right? All other cancers. Because we are focusing especially on non-small cell lung cancer, so all other cancer studies would be excluded. Interventions, we need only drug A. However, all other available interventions are our comparator. So they may be, so there can't be any restriction on intervention or comparator, right? Drug A may be an intervention in a study and in another study it may be a comparator, right? So we can't put a restriction ki isko, that drug A should be in intervention arm only. It can be on comparator arm as well. So there can't be any restriction on that. So no exclusion criteria based on intervention. Similarly, no restriction based on comparator because we have considered all the available interventions. But outcomes, yes. Any study which is specially focusing on toxicity, we are going to exclude it. Any study which is just assessing the prognosis factor, we are going to exclude it. Any other study which is going to assess, for example, clinical response or relapse, we are going to exclude it. So this is type of study we are going to exclude. RCTs, other than RCTs, everything would be excluded. It may be an observational study, retrospective study. It may be a cross-sectional study. It may be a case report or whatever it is. Except RCT, we are going to exclude everything. So this is our PICOs where we are defining what to include, what not to include. Hope this is clear. This is our selection criteria for with an example. Is it clear for everyone?
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent, ma'am. I never attended like this class.
Oh, I am glad to hear that. Okay, this is our selection criteria. So I can be in more detail, but I have just 2 hours. Dharmendraji has given just me 2 hours, so I can't be more telling you more detail about all these steps. Okay. So now comes the second step. Now we have decided that this is what we are going to include, but how we are going to do that? We need to develop a search strategy. For everything, what we do, which is very technical, we have to develop some strategy out of it, that how we are going to achieve that particular step. So now search strategy, we have decided that this is our search criteria. These are the things we are going to include, but now we have to create a search strategy with that. So I'll first discuss this and I'll go back to that example again and we'll see the steps. Then search strategy is the plan of how relevant research studies will be identified. How we'll get those studies which are of interest, right? Selection criteria specifies the studies to be included in a review, which would be a key driver of a search strategy, right? Selection criteria we have made, the PICOs we have already defined, so that PICOs will help us develop the search strategy. And a key consideration will be whether the search aims to be exhaustive and aims to try and find all the primary research that had been addressed the review question. It has to be very exhaustive, that no relevant study should be missed out. An exhaustive search strategy will also detail what sources will be searched for our search strategy. Sources, I've just shown you in an example in the protocol, what kind of databases we are going to use to search those publications, right? So an exhaustive research search strategy would usually include all sources using multiple bibliographic databases as well. And bibliographic databases usually index academic journals, thus an important potential source for that, right? So we have keywords, we have control terms. I'll tell you through an example. One example is already there, where I have just shown you about the keywords that are being used for one particular kind of disease. We are studying about Alzheimer's disease. We are trying to conduct a systematic review where we are trying to search something about Alzheimer's disease. So you can see we have used the terms like Alzheimer disease as a full, Alzheimer only, and Alzheimer's or Alzheimer with IE, difference of EI and IE, because you never know that what kind of publication would be published through US English or UK English, and what kind of words they have used to depict their topic. So IE and EI, similar words have been used. Cognition disorders, Alzheimer's disease is also called as cognition disorder, cognitive disorder, only cognition, dementia, because it's a dementia disorder. So dementia has been used. So I'll tell you with the same example again, so it would be more easy for you to understand. Can you see this PowerPoint again, white one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So in this case, what we were looking for was non-small cell lung cancer. Sorry. Lung cancer. This is your first term. In any case, you have to use the terms which are similar, because you can't just write small cell, non-small cell lung cancer. You have to also include the terms like or NSCLC, which is a short form of this, or you have to include non-small cell lung cancer without a hyphen. So this is an example, right? Either your paper should have this, or should have NSCLC, or should have this. So you have used the Boolean. These are the terms, or and not are the Boolean terms which are used to combine the different terms, right? Then we have our study design, RCT. So we want randomized controlled trials or RCTs or RCT alone, or randomized controlled trial or randomized. I mean, you can go n number of words you find in the literature. Trial. Okay, so there with S, and this is without S. Sorry, this should be with S. Right? So now you want study which has to be conducted in this cancer, and the study design should be this. But you want both in one study. So you have to combine these all terms. So what you will do, you will use and, right? So you want this, that the study should be in non-small cell lung cancer, but it should also on the other side, it should be also RCTs. It's not just that in non-small cell lung cancer, whatever study is being done, you should include that. Whatever randomized control trial has been studied in the world, you should include in your systematic review. But you want those randomized studies, randomized control trials, which has been conducted in non-small cell lung cancer. It is just a shorter example of search strategies that is being developed for conducting a systematic review. Can you see the blue slides now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, now we'll go to some of the databases or some of the softwares where which can be used to conduct the searches, where you can find your intended literature. Google, like Google Scholar, Microsoft Academic. Bibliographic databases are there, subject specific, like for education, you have Education Resources Information Center, ERIC. If your systematic review is basically focused on education, then ERIC can be used. Generic one for social sciences is Applied Social Sciences Index and Abstracts. Hand searching of specialist journals or books, you go actually physical check them. Contacts with an expert can tell you that, okay, this kind of study has been published, you can refer that. Citation checking, while doing a literature review, you find one literature review which is very relevant to your subject, or systematic review which was done with a little different objective. You can use the cross references from there also to include them if you find them suitable according to your PICOs. For medical purposes, you have PubMed, you have Embase, you have Medline, you have Cochrane, you have PsycInfo, you have DARE. You have multiple of them which can be used to conduct your searches. But one thing you have to remember, that sometimes there comes a overlapping results as well. So you when you do the searches and get those results, you have to remove the duplicates from different resources. There's again a software available, that is Reference Manager. You import every search from different databases into that Reference Manager, and you can exclude the duplicates from that. Right? Okay. Then comes, okay, first we'll discuss about a little more on federated search engines. Currently, what I have told you, that you have to use multiple, to be very comprehensive while doing your systematic review, you have to include multiple databases while conducting your searches. But now, with the upgradation of the systems, with the upgradation of the software's availability, there has been a federated search engine. What do you mean by federated search engine? It is very clear from the term. Federated means combined. A search strategy will identify the search term that will be used to search the bibliographic databases that we have found. Search strategy we have constructed. Then what happened? A comprehensive search strategy is used in these federated search engines, which has compilation of multiple databases into one. And now there are no chances of duplicates. You don't have to make different search strategies for different databases. You can just work with one, and you can just run your searches into one federated search engine, and all the search results would appear on the screen. And you can just download them, import them into your software. You're going like Summary. We have seen that there is a software which is used Summary, and you can start working on that using that software then and there. So federated search engines has an advantage of saving your time and effort. Now from the study selection process. So till now, the process which we have done, creating a protocol, drafting a protocol, drafting your research question, developing a search strategy, doing a search in a database, it all can be conducted. I'm reiterating, can be conducted by a single person. But from now onwards, whatever we are going to do, in a systematic literature review would be done by a team. And what would be the role of different members of the team? I'll explain you, right? So the studies identified by the search are subject to a process of checking, right? Sometimes referred to as screening, to ensure they meet the selection criteria. Right, we have developed a selection criteria. We have our PCOs. We developed the search strategy according to the PCOs. Now we have conducted the searches. Now, what we have to do is we have to apply a study selection process. Now we have full publication into our hand. Now we have to find out whether it is meeting our PCOs criteria or not. Right. So this is usually done in 2 stages, whereby in the first step, only titles and abstracts are checked first to determine whether the study is likely to be relevant, and then a full copy of paper is required to complete the screening exercise. Why we are doing it in 2 steps? You have to understand the step very critically, is that most of the publications, good publications, are not freely available. They'll provide you just 2 things, title and the abstract. So first step of screening, once you have conducted the searches, first step of screening will include screening of only titles and abstracts, because that is the free available portion. For example, if your searches has resulted 10,000 titles, 10,000 studies, when you will order all those 10,000, it will be a huge amount. So reducing that amount, what you will do, you'll screen the titles and abstract first. If you find that this title and abstract is somehow meeting our PCOs criteria, then you will select it for the next step of ordering that full paper. Okay. If it is in the initial stages, it is not meeting our criteria, then you are going to exclude it. Then there is no need to order the full paper application and use your resources for that. Right. So the first step is we are just screening the titles and abstract. If it is meeting the PCOs criteria, it will go to the next step. Otherwise, it will be excluded then and there. And during the second step of screening, you have the full paper in your hand. Then you will screen them again on the PCOs criteria and select all those studies which are meeting your PCOs criteria. Otherwise, you are going to exclude them. Right? And why I am telling that from here onwards, a team is required? Because sometimes, because we all are human, it's not an automated process, it's a human process. Sometimes I might miss and exclude an important paper. So I should have someone else also to check. And they both are independent reviewers. I am sitting on my laptop, the second person is sitting on his or her laptop. I am not talking to him about the publications. He is not talking to me on about his searches. He is doing independently. I am doing independently. Okay. At the end of the day, out of 10,000 studies, I excluded, for example, I excluded 6,000 studies. The second person excluded 6,500 studies. Right? So there is a conflict of 500 studies. Right? I included those 500 studies and he excluded those 500 studies. So there is a third independent person who is going to review all those 500 studies again and come to the final conclusion whether that particular study should have been included or excluded. So now comes the role of a team. Because I am not going to exclude any relevant study, I am not intended to do that. So that's why a third reviewer is required to check whether the exclusion of those 500 studies was correct or incorrect. Because in systematic literature reviews, accountability is there. I told you earlier as well. You can't exclude or include anything out of your mind. You have to be very specific. You have to follow your PCOS criteria. You have to follow the whole process. So that's why here comes the role of a team member who are all working independently to create right numbers, to find the right numbers of inclusions. Right? So after the study selection process, we have actually found 3,500 studies which are meeting our criteria after first screening. Then similar process of independent reviewer 1, independent reviewer 2, and quality assurance or the third independent reviewer to complete the second screening process, which has full text, full publications to find out whether they are meeting our inclusion criteria or not. For example, after first and second screening, we finally come to the number of 500. Okay, these 500 studies would contribute to our systematic literature review. Now we are going to extract the data out of it. We are going to analyze that data, and we are finally going to interpret of these 500 studies to reach to a conclusion. So how we are going to identify these 500 studies? We need to code them. We generally code them by, there are different methods. You can code them by, for example, I can give you multiple examples of the code. So it can be, if we are doing an NSCLC, so my project code might be NSCLC RCT1. Another next study would be our NSCLC RCT2. This is an example of coding, or you can just code them using an SCLC. Martin is the first author. Martin 2009 is an example of coding NSCLC. Lopez 2020 might be a coding for. So there can be n number of ways of coding a particular study. Coding is done just to ease out the process, right? To easily identify the included studies. Then comes, once relevant study have been selected, reviewers need to systematically identify and record the information from the study that will be used to answer the research question that we have discussed. So the information includes characteristics of the study, including details of the participants and context, whatever way the coding you want to be, right? It helps to map what kind of research has been done. So it also allows to assess the quality and relevance of at every step. Coding is useful. Right, so this is just one step, not very critical on that. So I'm not going to discuss more in detail on this. So then come the quality appraisal or the critical appraisal. These are broadly three elements that are considered while critically appraising any kind of study. The term itself is very clear. The critical appraisal, it's depicting that what kind of level of evidence this study is particularly providing. The appropriateness of the study design in the context of the research question. Quality on execution of the study methods, the study's relevance to the study question. And there are published scales are already available. When you are doing a particular kind of systematic review, you can just Google that what kind of scales which are used to critically appraise any kind of study. For observational study, there are different critical appraisal tools. For RCTs, there are different kind of critical appraisal tools. For retrospective studies, there are different. For economic studies, there are different. For quality of life studies, there are different kind of critical appraisal tools which are available to assess the level of reliability of that particular study. How it is, at what level it is actually meeting our criteria. And it is meeting our criteria of PCOS, that we know, because that's why it has come to this stage. But 10% meeting and 100% meeting, right? So it is very subjective term. So to reach to a common platform, we use these tools to critically appraise, right? And now we are going to synthesize. Synthesis is more than a list of findings from the included studies. It is an attempt to integrate the information from individual study to produce a better answer. It's not just that we are writing study XYZ has shown these results, study ABC has shown these results. It's not individually we are writing. For 500 publications, we can't do that. So it is more of just explaining the individual studies. So there are different methods to do this. So each stage of the review contributes towards synthesis, and so decisions made in earlier stages of the review shape the proper end possibilities of the synthesis. And all types of synthesis involve some kind of data transformation, right? In which we try to search the patterns in data. Checking the quality of synthesis is also contributing to final conclusion. Integrating data to answer the review question, which is through meta-analysis. What meta-analysis is? Meta-analysis of a systematic review includes statistical pooling of the findings. Right? So a review that uses a specific statistical technique for synthesizing the results of several studies into one quantitative estimate is we call as a meta-analysis. Right? So I'll show you with an example. Okay. So first we'll read this and then we'll see how meta-analysis is done. So systematic review often use statistical techniques to combine data from examined individual search studies, use the pooled data to come to a new statistical conclusion. Now, focus on this second bullet. Not all systematic reviews include meta-analysis, but all meta-analysis are found in systematic reviews. Every systematic review does not come to a conclusion where we need to imply a statistical tool. For example, if my systematic review, after completing all the required steps we have seen so far, yields only 2 studies to be included, or even 5 studies to be included in our systematic reviews, then it becomes really irrelevant to conduct a statistical analysis on so much less evidence. You will do a statistical analysis when you have sufficient number of evidence, sufficient data to be pulled in and to be included into any kind of software to produce a quantitative result. So in those cases, we end up till systematic review only. But when, for in this case, for example, we have come to inclusion of about 500 studies, then obviously to reach to a conclusion, we need to imply any statistical tool to find out one quantitative number so that we can interpret. Right? So hazard ratio, odds ratio are the example of one particular conclusion summary. I'll show you with an example through Google. Simply put, a systematic review refers to the entire process of selecting, evaluating, synthesizing all available evidence, while the term meta-analysis refers to statistical approach to combining of data derived from a systematic review. To conduct a meta-analysis, you have to conduct a systematic review as a first step, and after compilation of data, after extraction and compilation of the data, you can imply a statistical tool, and this is now called as a meta-analysis. But without systematic review on single paper, if you are using any kind of statistical tool, that doesn't mean it is a meta-analysis. To conduct a meta-analysis, you have to do a systematic review. Conclusion produced by meta-analysis are statistically stronger than the analysis of any single study, obviously, because you have pooled the data from 500 studies. So that result would be more reliable more stronger compared to one single RCT. Why? Due to increased number of subjects, one study might have 300 patients. 500 study, 300 into 500, 1,50,000 studies, patients. So obviously the results from 300 would be less reliable compared to what we have achieved from 1,50,000 patients. Greater diversity among subjects. One RCT might have done only in Japan, whereas multiple RCTs done globally, done in different parts of the world, would have more diverse patients, right? Then accumulated effects and results. Obviously, 1,50,000 patients ka result, it is depicting more stronger evidence. So meta-analysis has become more common in social and biomedical sciences. So I have already put that example. There are a number of different metrics of effect size, selection of which is principally determined by structure of outcome data. How your outcome data is presented in the publications, that will guide you what kind of final effect size will be produced after analysis. So I'll tell you with an example. The data might be given in your studies is of continuous format or a dichotomous format. Dichotomous. What is dichotomous? It is similar to the term binary. Yes or no? Right?
Yes.
Got it? Dichotomous format, yes or no? Hai ki nahi? Continuous hai? It is going on.
Categorical hai.
Sorry? Dichotomous is in terms of number of patients. In health sciences, it's generally number of patients. If we are studying about disease control rate, out of 300 patients, how many showed disease control rate? Out of 300, only 50 shows the disease control rate. It's not like that, हाँ थोड़ा सा disease control rate हुआ है ना? There is only a marginal disease control rate. This is not the way. Either it has happened or not has happened, right? So it is a dichotomous format of data. In continuous format, overall survival, it can be 1 month, it can be 1.1 months, it can be 1.12 months, depending on the tenure you have divided. It can be 4 months, it can be 5 months, it can go up to n number of permutations and combinations. So it is a continuous format. There is no yes, no kind of thing. So how your data is presented in your publications and what kind of that will guide you what kind of meta-analysis tool you are going to imply, and that will determine what kind of effect size you will get at the end of meta-analysis, right? Outcome data with a dichotomous structure can be transformed into an odds ratio. If you have data as dichotomous, it will be converted to odds ratio, absolute risk, relative risk ratio, standardized mean differences. These kind of outputs that you can achieve depending upon the tool you have used. Okay, I'll try to magnify this a little bit more. Can you see this white chart?
दिख रहा है
Yes,
मैम,
ma'am.
लेकिन स्लाइड शो पे डाल दीजिए मैम तो ज्यादा बेटर दिखेगा.
Slide show नहीं चल रहा ना. I mean, it's not working in slide show. I don't have any issue. Can you see now? Is it?
Yes ma'am. Yes,
It's very
no
Slide
issue.
show, it is working.
Yes,
Okay.
madam, it is good to be.
It is
Okay.
visible. It is visible.
Okay, okay, great. So this is an example of output from meta-analysis for a dichotomous outcome. Treatment outcome in 15 patients, it was reported out of 131 patients. In control, it was in 22 patients. Oh, sorry. In 22 patients out of 137 patients. So the risk ratio was 0.71 in this case, right? Less than 1 means risk. This is the risk. So it means lesser is the risk with treatment. So overall subtotal is 0.77, 0.67 to 0.89. This is 95% confidence interval. So 0.77, it is less than 1. So what it is showing that risk is lesser with the treatment compared to the controlled one. So this is how an example of an output of an dichotomous outcome. So similar in case of continuous outcome, you can get hazards ratio, which is opposite to odds ratio. So there are different kind of outcomes. This is just an example that I have shown you to be more specific, depending on the research question, what kind of research outcomes or study outcomes you have selected in your PCOs, your meta-analysis will be guided accordingly. And the tools that will be used to conduct the meta-analysis will depend on that only. Right? Now, can you see the slide moving? Now it's on application stage.
No.
No? Okay. Fine. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam, okay.
Fine. Now I think it would be
Yes,
visible.
ma'am.
Okay. So applications part. So politicians, policymakers are increasingly interested in evidence-based decision now. They don't want that single study or combination of single studies using just a normal Google search will help them making the policies. So they need a proper systematic process to be followed. So for that, systematic reviews and meta-analysis are the best input source. They are under pressure to research for solutions to policy problems. It's not like that. Now it's a time of technology. It's not like that studies are not accessible to anyone. So even a layman can also access through Google searching, at least find basic things. Whenever we have fever, we try to find out our symptoms by putting that in Google and find out what kind of reason might be for my fever. So I might not be a doctor. I am not a doctor, but still I am trying to do that. Right? I am trying to find out because it's a time of technology. So similar applies to when a policy comes into the place. When government announces any policy, layman also tries to search and find out what are the things which are guiding that policy. So the policymakers should also have a solid ground to justify them that why they are putting up that recommendation in a policy. So for policymakers, systematic review may provide robust, reliable summaries of most reliable evidence, a valuable backdrop of evidence on which decision about policies can be drawn. So that's really important for that. This is just an example for all you guys. Review of research on effects of psychological stress upon performance, where a systematic review of literature dealing the effects of stress on performance was done. Performance is a qualitative measure, so different scales are available to assess the performance. Right? I can I'll just give you an example how to study the effect of performance, or maybe there might be some doctors who can help us out, give an example how to assess the performance. Maybe I can read a storybook for continuously 2 hours. So that might be an assessment criteria for me. Or I can sleep for 6 hours without any disturbance, or very sound sleep for 6 hours. So that's also a performance outcome. So that all depends. I can cook for 100 people in 1 hour, or I can cook for 100 people in 2 hours. So that's also a performance criteria. So that all depends. So it's just an example I'm giving you. So behavior therapy research with children, a critical review. So nowadays, even after Corona, this has increased. This has been a major concern for behavioral therapy. So what kind of behavioral therapy we can impart among children so that they can be in a more easy mode, or I should say more childhood mode rather than a mature mode at what they are. So this is an example of what kind of outputs we can expect from a behavior research therapy among children. Then educational production functions for teacher, technology mixes, problems and possibilities. So a systematic review of past and current experiment with the educational applications of computers and television. So there has been multiple applications, Swam application, Diksha, Drishti. So there has been multiple of them which are available. There are a couple of channels which are available. So which have tried to implicate or try to impart education among school children, among college going students, among UG, PG students, whatever it is. So there has been a educational applications available with a study of social milieu in which public schools can be expected to operate in each. It might be focused on school education only. It might be on college education. It may be n number. These are just an examples. There are n number of systematic reviews which are available, which I have done so far, mostly on biomedical, but now social sciences are also covering that. Fine. So this is my contact details. So if anybody has any questions, which I am not able to answer right now, because I am also not like you guys, I am also in learning phase. And learning never ends. So I am also learning. So there might be some questions which I am not able to answer right now. I can probably study a little more for you and then I can answer for you. So you can reach out to me at my email address. Right now we can open this forum for any discussions.
There's a question, ma'am.
Yeah, please go ahead.
As you said that in study selection criteria, one person is doing 5,000. I mean, from 10,000, he has excluded 5,000, and second person has excluded 5,500. So how do we know that the studies which he has excluded, both the person who have excluded are the similar studies, as you were saying that we have to
I got your point. So yeah. There are softwares which are available to conduct. Once you have conducted your searches, all the searches will be included into that software.
Okay.
So the software is designed in such a way that the third person, who is the final reviewer, will be able to see the conflicting decisions among the both.
Okay.
So he'll go through only those studies where there is a conflict.
Okay.
So because I can't show you everything in this 2 hours workshop. So otherwise I would have shown you a software where you can see actually what conflicts can be, how conflicts can be seen.
Yeah, ma'am, because most of the thing I think in your today's lecture is of working on the software only.
Yes, I mean systematic review, if it is a very broad topic, you can't do without softwares. Or maximum, or in any case, if you don't have an access to a software, I can tell you easy method is Excel. If you have a limited about 5,000 studies through your screening, you can easily do in Excel. I have done till 20 to 50,000 also in Excel, but for a new person, it would be pretty difficult. For 5,000, you can do on Excel, and still a third reviewer will be able to see through conditional formatting in Excel. The third reviewer will be able to see the conflicts.
Okay.
Okay.
Very nice lecture, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other question? Anybody can raise hand before, please. And it would be great if while starting your question, you can just tell a little background about yourself.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, ma'am. Myself, I am Sindhu. I am working as an assistant professor at Calicut University at the Department of Zoology. And my research topic revolves around breast cancer, and it's we are working on how to.
Clinical.
Yeah, not clinical. It is basic research. Yeah. So what I wanted to know is that when going to systematic review, I found that we have to register it with the Cochrane registry, and is it really like mandatory, and what are all the procedures?
No, if you want to do a Cochrane systematic review, then you have to go and register yourself. If you want to do an independent systematic review, then you don't need to register with Cochrane. Another thing is, if you want to search Cochrane database also, then sometimes you need to register. Otherwise, sometimes they are usually, they provide the systematic review, what they have done in that research area. Usually they become free, but sometimes they ask for registration, so you can do that. But if you are doing it independent, then I don't think that you need to register, because I have never registered myself with Cochrane. I never required it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And regarding the team members, like, what does the expert level mean by, like, do we need a lot number of publications in that area? Or
No. I'll tell you. It's not about the publication. It's all about the expertise they have in systematic reviews. It's the level of training they have with the systematic reviews. If I am having hundreds of publications, but still I am not aware with the process of systematic review, then I will be of no use. On the other hand, I can be a simple BSc with 1 or 2 or might be 0 publication. I am just a fresher BSc, but I am trained with a 3-week rigorous training on systematic review. I can be an expert on that. When I'll tell you, when I started my career in systematic reviews 15 years back, back in 2007, that was a very new concept. Only the first company which came to India for systematic reviews was ours. And we were the first batch. And I was fresher. I was postgraduate fresher, M.Pharm fresher for them. I never knew what systematic reviews was. But then we got 3 to 4 weeks rigorous training, multiple rounds of training of each step, how to do it, even the software understanding, everything we did. And now, I mean, now I can take classes of multiple people because that's how training is. So that all depends on training. It has no link with the number of publications a person has.
thank you, ma'am. Can you suggest any softwares or any websites where we can get such training from for meta-analysis?
Training, I don't know. I got physical trainings, I mean, through my mentors. So ICMR has just launched a book on systematic reviews. I am also writing a book on systematic review process. But I don't know how convenient it would be to study through books rather than a tutorial. But I'm sorry, I'm not aware of any tools on systematic review training because I did it long back through my mentors.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, can you suggest softwares for doing the meta-analysis?
You have different softwares. You can just use SPSS. You can use R software. You can even use Excel to conduct. If you are expert in Excel, you can do even, you don't need to have any additional software. You can just do that in Excel as well. You can do MS Access. You have multiple of them. R is really easy to learn. SPSS is also there, but R is easy to learn if you want to.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, can you please tell us any federated research engine? Though Google is there, but still, is there any other else?
Google is not. I would not call Google as a federated search engine, and I would never recommend to use Google to conduct a systematic review. That's my personal advice. So, okay. So federated search engine, you can just Google federated search engine, and then it will give. But otherwise, for your research topic, don't use Google for answering anything.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Systematic reviews. Google is to ask one question.
Yeah, please go ahead. Your voice is little low. I don't know who is talking, but your voice is very low.
Am I audible now?
Yes, it's better.
Okay. Madam, actually, I had posted my question in the chat box, but I just would like to read it again.
Yeah,
when
please.
we talk about meta-analysis and systematic reviews, the problem is that there are no two studies will be identical actually because.
Sorry. Please, can you please little louder? No two studies. Sorry, I couldn't hear after that.
Yeah, I want to tell you when we compare the literature, then it is very likely that no two studies will be same actually when in terms of selection criteria, inclusion exclusion criteria, the analytical methods used. So when we talk about the comparison of different studies, and if there is a variation in the biomedical characteristics of a large number of populations selected for RCTs across the world, then how can we interpolate the conclusions arrived at to a given population? Say for instance, that there have been different comparative studies on the use of some drug on different populations, and some results we have got. But how can we interpolate the results to another population, believing that this will not there? I mean,
okay.
This is what I wanted to ask.
What's your background?
I'm a physician, madam. I'm working in a
Okay.
hospital and
Okay,
interested
got
in
it.
biomedical research. Yeah.
Okay, fine. I am sharing my screen once again. Do let me know once you are able to see. I understood that you have a question saying that there are no two studies which are matching. So
Yeah.
actually, when we develop this PCOS, we develop sub-criteria. For example, we just put non-small cell lung cancer. In this case, we'll filter it down. We want to have studies with patients having ECOG 0 to 2 only. Okay. We want only treatment naive patients. We don't want pre-treated patients. We don't want to include patients having we want to have only metastatic NSCLC, not stage 1, stage 2. We only want stage 3B and 4. You want to define, if you can define 3B and 4 only. You don't want to have patients with CNS metastasis.
Yeah, it's okay.
What we are trying to do, we are trying to reach to that inclusion criteria, which is very specific. And only studies which are matching this criteria would be included, and the patient criteria would be more or less similar in these cases. We are not concerned with the number. We are concerned that all these patients should be more or less uniform. You got my point?
Okay.
I am filtering it down further.
This is with respect to the, we are filtering it with respect to particular, some selected criteria.
Yes, because we want to have a uniformity among the patients. So this, I hope this is answering what you are asking me.
Yeah, this is one part actually. This I understood it. But like, suppose I come to some conclusion based on this. How can I be so sure that this conclusion applies to another population? I'll give you one example. Just to let me give one example. I think it will make it clear. Now, something which is very relevant is COVID. So when COVID, in 2020, when COVID just started, and then ICMR conducted some in vitro studies on, hydroxychloroquine, and they came to the conclusion that hydroxychloroquine is effective. So it was, it was given. Many people took hydroxychloroquine, but in spite of that, some developed COVID, some, they didn't develop. Now we exactly, but after some time, ICMR, I mean, after some time, there was a reversal in the opinion. Then it was said that no, it is not. There is no significant change. The same thing has happened, with remdesivir, with ivermectin, some of these drugs. Now it is, this is what I want to know, especially when, So that is what, and I believe that we had some limited studies. For example, even with convalescent plasma, initially we got some hospitals reported good, good outcomes with convalescent plasma, and but ultimately it came to the light that there was a big trial across India called Placid, so that it showed that it is no better than placebo. I mean, whether you give convalescent plasma or not, and same thing happened with remdesivir. So none of these is now recommended as any standard therapy.
Dr.
So this is what I want to know. So I believe that this is actually rather a dynamic process, and with changing times, with another new, some new findings, all these things can get changed.
Yes.
So that is what I want to know.
Okay. And the very
during pandemics, so like in pandemics, during pandemic situation, when situation is, what we have experienced in 2021 or even in 2020. So in such situations, I believe that generally there is some exceptions are given. Like if we want to, we used some repurposed drugs, like as I mentioned, hydroxychloroquine, then ivermectin, remdesivir, etc., etc. So these were repurposed drugs, which were actually meant for some other use. So I believe in such situations, we generally, there are some exceptions given, because whatever we know at the current scenario, but whenever then if further studies and this thing, they prove it wrong. So I believe this is a rather a dynamic process, and what is true today may not be true tomorrow.
True. Dr. Prakash, you have yourself answered yourself. First thing, we'll discuss one by one your points. Although COVID is not my, but still I am going to answer more questions. Systematic reviews is always a dynamic process. In the initial stages, when I showed you what systematic reviews are, I used the term updatable. Systematic reviews are the one thing which needs and which can be updated on regular basis. For example, I conducted this systematic review till 2022 December publications. I can do it in next December again with only the studies which have been published from 1st January 23 to 31st December 23. So the results will be automatically updated. I don't have to repeat the process and go back again for the last 10 years, which I've already done. It can be just updated. Even for 1 month, even for 3 days or a 1 week. I can update it n number of times. There is no restriction. Second thing is, in case of COVID, where HCQ was approved first, that it can be used, then plasma was approved that it can be used, or remdesivir was approved that it can be used. These all things were based on single or just couple of studies. They were not based on systematic reviews where multiple studies were undertaken and their negative positive results were matched through meta-analysis to find out whether it is a positive result or a negative result. That was never done. So that was a reason where initially it was said, because from the short-term studies that were conducted, it said that yes, this is positive. But when a little longer term study was conducted, then it was proved that no, it is not showing any kind of effect. Similar was the case with plasma, similar was the case with remdesivir. So that's why the results were changing continuously. Now we are talking about systematic review. That has different kind of scenario because it was a pandemic and it was a short-term pandemic. I mean, short-term in the sense it was very quick and nobody was prepared for that. So no systematic review was earlier available because it was a new drug. So we had to wait for some time for some studies to be conducted, some studies to be published to conduct a systematic review. Otherwise, how can we do a systematic review when there is no literature that has been published so far? I hope I have answered.
Yeah, you have answered this question, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So any further question? We can have just one more question because now my laptop battery is also dying and now the time is also ticking. So one last.
Can we take two different kinds of studies? Supposing one study is having a continuous data and other is having a discrete data. Can both be taken together in a meta-analysis?
Meta-analysis process, for one single study, you can't do meta-analysis. You should have multiple
studies and
yes,
the studies are varying in the quality of data.
Yes. You can do n number of types of studies. Type of test using different kind of tools through meta-analysis. That there is no restriction that you only have to do either continuous or dichotomous. You can use both. And it is generally both. It generally doesn't happen for one type of data only. Ankit Srivastava, we can have your question.
Yes, ma'am. It is answered. Thank you. That was just federated search engine.
Okay. So Dharmendra ji, I have done my part. I tried to impart my knowledge in these 2 hours to our participants. Hope that will help them.
Thank you, madam. Excellent presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for the compliments, ma'am. I am also learning with all you guys through these presentations because I also studied before coming to you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Please share the protocol also, ma'am.
Yes. I'll share that PPT with you guys, with Dharmendra ji, and he can probably circulate among yourselves. So
yeah, which one you have shown in the example, no, ma'am? That's we want to.
I will.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. So Dharmendra ji, I am logging off for the day. Thank you, and all the very best for the rest of your career and hope I can be of any help for any one of you. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
नंतर एकदम gear up झालं.
याबद्दल पाहिलं की ते कामात आहे साऱ्याची पण ती आहे पारमार्थी नाही ती झाले नाही तर पारमार्थी नाही ती एक म्हणायची बेबी या सुट्टी माझ्या बहिणीने तुम्ही सकीत होईल दिनाची सकीत होईल
બીજું કોઈ તો બોલો ને મમ્મી બીજું કોઈ તો